a more holistic way of dealing with that would be to thank that interaction for taking place, but not pursuing it, and just feeling those feelings that are rushing through your body because you've had a release of endorphins, you've had good feelings and hormones being pumped through your body, which make you feel good and are good for your health. And specifically, if we were to get into the dynamics of what's happening energetically in the body, from the perspective of Chinese medicine, there's energy that's coming up from the base of the spine. It's a creative energy, which is that creative force, procreative force. Instead of leaking it out in the form of trying to interact sexually with that person that's coming at you or that you're attracted with, you circulate it in your body up through the back channel and then down through the front, and you can use it to heal your body, literally. I personally believe that there is a underlying connection between all religions, and that these concepts can be conveyed and expressed through different religious traditions but have the same result in the person practicing whatever system, whether it's Kabbalistic mysticism, you could relate that to the Tree of Life, or maybe it's a shamanic path, or maybe it's, such as in Hinduism, it's the yogic path, which is the mystical side of Hinduism. Now when it comes to actually touching someone, whether it's shaking a hand or giving a hug, that, what I just explained, is a way of dealing with all those issues of imbalanced things that occur. There's ways you can deal with that through your own personal practice and developing yourself, to not react to those things, to not become feeling vulnerable to someone that might be what we might call an energy grabber. We've all been around those people and we don't like it, but your reaction to it is controlled by you. And specifically with touch, studies have shown conclusively that babies that don't get touch, newborn babies that don't receive touch, can actually die. Now, I understand that the ideas that you're bringing about are that you don't reject touching your infant, and that's fantastic. However, as one progresses in age, it doesn't become as vital to have touch, meaning you're not going to die if you don't receive touch from your parents. But as you progress in society, there's a natural tendency to touch others, and this was shown in the failure to thrive syndrome in orphanages, where this baffled researchers in the first half of the last century, where orphanages, the children would be developmentally challenged and wouldn't be able to function in society because they grew up in such a strange environment and they weren't having the proper touch. Again, if we were to get older, those pathways in the brain of touch as you're young are still there, yet we are now in a situation where there's no longer touch from society around us, and North American society is deeply repressed in this manner. Many studies have shown that in Europe, for instance, in a typical one-hour conversation, and this is specifically in France and Italy, people will exchange touches 100 times. In the US, in a same one-hour conversation, there was 3 touches that were exchanged. And if anyone's ever traveled abroad to Europe, to any of these much more open-hearted countries, they'll realize that there is a very friendly atmosphere about the way they touch. It's not sexual, it's not creepy, it's not perverted. And I personally, in my own experience, after having been to a Middle Eastern country where there was a lot of touch between strangers even, my culture shock did not happen when I arrived in the country. My culture shock happened when I came back home, and I was no longer holding hands with people and putting my arms around them every time I met someone new. It was quite something to experience. If you look at monkeys in nature, there's literally tribes of monkeys. They're constantly touching each other. They're picking and grooming each other. You could say they're one big family and they're all touching. And another thing about monkeys, Dr. Harry Harlow did some groundbreaking work with monkeys that were deprived of touch as infants growing up. They were actually given like a doll as a mother in their cages, and they ended up being violent to their own offspring when they grew up. They would abuse them, etc. And this is just very obvious that when someone's deprived of touch, they aren't getting the pleasurable chemicals that are released in the body through friendly touch. And this is also seen with hands-on therapies like massage, all forms of hands-on healing. These are all very therapeutic. I do question whether I mean, are you willing to never have a massage again? Is that something you're taking on with this vow? And again, I'm not attacking your vow. I'm simply demonstrating that what you're saying is healthy. You don't have any basis for it in terms of recommending that for other people, unless you're recommending that they follow a specific religious doctrine for the sake of following it, but don't bring health into it because there's no basis for it. That brings us to the next topic of baring skin, which you can see I'm doing in this video perhaps as a statement. Now, specifically, if you're not baring your skin out in public, it's summertime, you're going to be getting less sunshine on your body, you're getting less vitamin D. That's the first obvious thing. Wearing natural fiber clothing is obviously a great thing to do, but it still blocks the sunlight, and you're not getting optimal vitamin D that way. And yes, you can sunbathe in your own backyard, I guess, but some people live lifestyles, and they might just want to wear a tank top out one day and just get ambient sunlight while they're moving around town doing whatever errands they're doing. But again, there's this underlying fear that many, if not all, religions hold within them of repressing sexuality, and anything such as baring of skin is a sexual expression to them, even though there's differences in what a sexual expression is. There's the intent behind expressing oneself in a way. Some people choose to flaunt their sexuality in a way to get attention and seek validation, and I would completely agree that this is unhealthy. This is based in ego and not being able to accept oneself as they are and needing others to give them acceptance to feel good about themselves. Perhaps they're lacking touch in their lives. Now, if it's a hot day and you're wearing a tank top that's a little bit revealing, that's quite different from wearing something that is revealing with the intent to attract someone to get attention. And perhaps some people do want to attract someone, but their intention isn't to get validation, it's just to have that interaction and feeling those great feelings of being attracted to someone and to start a relationship or intimate partnership with someone. Again, we're going to use the example of Europe, and this is across Europe. There's a lot less prudishness around baring oneself. In parks in certain countries in Europe, you can see people sunbathing topless. There's nude beaches everywhere. For many beaches, you have the option of being nude or not. And it's quite obvious by comparing cultures that they're much healthier in terms of their societal feelings, and they don't have that sort of cringed tightness about them. They're a little more relaxed and open. Even people that don't necessarily look like Greek statues are out there sunbathing topless. And it gets children used to the body. They have less issues about body image because they see their parents and the elders in society bearing it all for all to see. So they grow up with better self-body images. That's a health benefit that we can talk about, being more open about bearing yourself. Now, you brought in the idea of keeping your beard natural, which is fine, but if you're going to be talking about being natural and you're talking about letting your beard grow and not trimming it, yet you trim your hair, you trim your nails, you have showers, you cover up when you go outside, that's a little bit contradictory. So if your reasons for growing a beard and trimming all those other things is because of a specific religious doctrine, talk about it in that sense, but don't say it's a health thing and that it's natural to do this, yet in the same breath you're talking about covering everything else up and trimming and taking care of other things. There are certain Taoists that actually took the whole natural thing quite far, and a lot of these old images of Taoist monks and sages, they had really long fingernails, they had long beards, long hair. I can't imagine what else they did, but this is a philosophy they chose to take on, yet it was with their whole body, and personally I'd find that inconvenient, and I could probably say there's health problems in that, because if you have long hair or long nails, there's issues with cleanliness with that. However, I'm sure people nowadays are very much capable of taking care of those things, and it's not really a cleanliness issue, but in the past it might have been an issue when those societal expectations were created. I was just talking about Greek statues, and if we look at art through the ages, we look at Greek art compared to Roman Catholic art, art inspired by religion, where people are covering up, there's little leaves covering their groins and their they are shameful about it, yet in Greek statues they're much more exalted, and they stand tall and open, and they were naked, many of the Greek statues, and they didn't see it as a problem. They didn't have shame about it, because shame is an emotion that is either there and inbuilt, or it can be dealt with and altered and released. Much in the same way that stage fright can be overcome if you're afraid of going out and doing public speaking. It's an emotion that becomes ingrained into our subconscious mind that we can work with and overcome. So shame of nudity, shame of having your shirt off, is not an inbuilt human quality that is put there by some creator.